If you're thinking about building a house, you might think the first step is finding the perfect plot. I would recommend that the very first thing you should figure out is how much you can actually afford. Before looking at houses or land, we booked a meeting with our bank to determine our budget. And that sounds very straightforward, but it turned out to be one of the biggest challenges at the beginning of the project. Not every bank advisor has experience with financing a project where you buy an old house, demolish it, and build a completely new one. It's much more complicated than buying an existing house. In fact, we changed our contact at the bank several times before finding someone with the right experience, and it was frustrating at times. We have meetings where advisors arrived unprepared or simply didn't understand how the type of this project worked. So those meetings felt like a waste of time and slowed us a bit down. But eventually we found an advisor at Nordea who specialized in projects like ours, and it made a huge difference. She didn't just understand the financial side, she had personal experience with a similar project herself. And that meant she could answer practical questions and explain the process clearly. So looking back, one of the biggest lessons we learned is this: don't be afraid to ask for another advisor. If you don't feel confident in the one you have been assigned, just change it. A good banking partner can make a complicated project feel manageable, while the wrong one can make every step really difficult. So once we had the right advisor, we started putting together a complete picture of our finances. And the bank wanted information like monthly expenses, including insurance, utilities, subscriptions, memberships, and all the fixed costs. And on top of that, we also had to estimate the variable costs like hobbies, traveling, expenses, stuff like that. So, and then of course they wanted to understand if you have any properties or savings on top. We had a smaller apartment in Copenhagen Central and another bigger one in Amma. So once they understood all our properties and investments and savings, then they could kind of give us a budget for what we can spend on this project. The cost wasn't just the new house itself. It included buying the plot, demolishing the existing house, building the new home, and even the garden. One thing we didn't know beforehand is that in Denmark, you can't simply finish the house and leave the garden for later. Some level of landscaping, even if it's just finished lawn, it's required before the project is considered complete. So from our first meeting with the bank until we actually found the plot and signed with our house builder, it almost took 2 years, I think. During that time, property prices increased significantly, and so did our available budget, to be honest. But the important thing is that getting a realistic budget early gave us confidence that we can go ahead with the project. It helped us focus on plots we could actually afford. So it prevented us going for properties which we cannot afford. If there is a piece of advice I would give anyone starting a similar project is take the time to find the right banking partner, be patient, ask questions, and don't hesitate to request another advisor if you feel they are not the right fit. So that decision can make a huge difference in your project. Yes. Next, we talk a bit about finding our plot and what we have learned along the way.